The Pleasures We Know. This is by Donald Westlake under the pen name Barbara Wilson. That's strange. I can't imagine he would have chosen that name, but I don't know. What's fascinating about this book really is its importance as a cultural artifact. It's interesting, sobering, very sad, but important to understand how lesbians in particular were looked at as a fetish object and as some sort of delinquent social disturbance back in the early 1960s. This was written, I believe, in 1964. And there are a series of books about lesbian sex, but the theme is generally that there's one bad girl who's already been corrupted, and she seduces another girl who is with a man but goes through a breakup, so she's vulnerable emotionally, looks for solace, and is seduced by the bad girl. In this story, what happens is one of the lesbians commits suicide, so the one who is still around then goes into a new relationship. And there is a bit of moralizing here by Westlake. Let's see. Here there's a review in an internal dialogue of the effect of the suicide, not necessarily in suicide, not that lesbianism must inevitably end in blunt physical self-destruction. She already knew that was untrue, but still self-destruction in a way. Was that the lesson of Bobby's death? Perhaps it was. That the ultimate end of lesbianism is self-destruction, despair, hopelessness, defeat. In Bobby's case, blunt and obvious, the most simple and direct way of self-destruction. But there were other ways, perhaps, in a way worse than that chosen by Bobby. Because Bobby was out of it now, done with it. What I find interesting is, if Westlake is moralizing, why? I actually had an email exchange with Lawrence Block, one of Westlake's closest friends, who also started his career writing sex books. And he told me that they could write whatever they wanted. The idea was to have something sexual, sensual, that would get people to turn the pages. And no one really cared otherwise what it was. So there were no restrictions. Westlake didn't have to moralize. He probably didn't even have to write about lesbians. And it's strange. I guess he thought there was a market there. Maybe he thought it was interesting. I would love to have had the opportunity to ask him. But the real thing is how sad it is, because I think the attitude that's conveyed in here, that lesbianism is an illness, was certainly prevalent then, probably still prevalent now in many cases. And that's worth being aware of, and that's why this book is worth knowing about. On a separate issue, I love this photograph. I wonder what happened to these models. They are professional models, it says on the back of the book. Let's see. A domino book. Cover photo posed by professional models. And She looks sort of like Scarlett Johansson, and it would just be interesting to know what they thought when they saw their photos on this book. Well, there you have it. An early sex book by Donald Westlake under the pen name Barbara Wilson. The Pleasures We Know.